Welcome to Bad First Impression, a podcast about movies and where we meet them. Today I'm welcoming back to the show Sebass Maroun and Kevin Wingertzahn from the Skeeter Stevenson Variety Hour. For this episode, we're talking about something that is a lot less specific to my guests and is maybe more of just a general, how is the state of film functioning in terms of like commercial filmmaking now? This is one where I don't. Last time you were on, we went. I feel like we were like 30 minutes into the episode before we said the name of the movie that we were watching. Yeah. This time, I feel like we should probably just come out and say it. Right?
Let's all say it.
Okay, ready? 1,
2, 3.
Star Wars
Episode 3. Revenge of the Sith.
That's right. You all have been waiting for it. We're all going to sit in this basement and podcast about Star Wars.
I know. I was going to say, if you're watching I don't know if you're uploading this whole thing, but just looking at the three of us, knowing that we're about to start talking about Revenge of the Sith for a few hours.
It's an episode about Revenge of the Sith, and the three people recording it look exactly like you'd expect them to look. Let's backtrack a little bit because I'm like, after I asked you and you were like, yeah, let's do it. Then I like really realized what I had asked you, and that I was like, let's go back and let's talk about what the actual showing itself is. So we went to the IFC Center for a midnight showing during part of a ongoing series they have about third movies in a trilogy, or not in a trilogy, but in a series. And they showed this one, and I was like, this is one of the Star Wars movies that I grew up with. Just that's how it timed out age-wise. And I was curious to kind of revisit it because I haven't watched it since Star Wars has kind of imploded again. Again? Well, because this movie came out and then there was radio silence for about a decade. Now they did another trilogy, and then immediately afterwards, Star Wars stopped being a movie franchise, and it's now a bunch of web series.
Yeah,
like that's what it's turned into now. So, what is your experience with this movie specifically, the prequels at large? That's the thing, is that I don't even.
This is such a big ordeal.
I know
there's so much to tackle here.
Well, I think I like Star Wars. It's okay.
Brave of you to say that.
I do like it. I enjoy it. I like the prequels. I don't even think I've ever seen the originals. I think I've only seen the prequels and like like parts of the originals.
There are some,
but never I don't think I've ever sat down.
This is why I keep you around. Them. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
that's so sick.
I don't know. They're like, I don't. I
was
very excited.
No. Elaborate on.
I really love the idea of Sebass like throwing on Empire, and he's like, "This is fucking good, guys. This is really."
This is where this comes from? Holy shit.
I know. And you'll never believe that Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is my favorite one.
I believe
my favorite Star Wars of all time. It's just the coolest movie.
You've seen one Star Wars movie.
No, I've seen them all. No. I've seen 6 of them. And like maybe 2 episodes of The Mandalorian.
Okay.
And some clips, like maybe 5, 6 like YouTube shorts of like the first 3.
just abridged YouTube compilation, 480p.
And that was just research that you did for this episode also.
Yeah. And let me just say, not a fan.
So what was your exposure to this movie specifically?
Must have been like my dad had it on tape or like DVD or something.
How old were you? This movie came out in 2005, so
this was 2005, huh?
Yeah.
There's no way. I did not see it in theaters. I discovered this like after, at least in like high school.
I vividly remember at least me being in first grade in Waverly, which was like in our school district because we're childhood friends. That's like the kindergarten, like first grade school.
That's a crazy time to watch this movie.
Oh, I didn't watch it in Waverly. I just remember my dad going to the movies to watch it when I would. I remember he left. If I remember this correctly, and Bill proved me wrong here, I think he and a bunch of coworkers left work early one day to go see Revenge of the Sith. And I was at school that day being like, wait, why can't I leave this shit to go see Revenge of the Sith? What the fuck?
Yeah, so that's and then when you grew up and had a job, you now they're releasing these new
Yes,
Star Wars
and
movies,
now-
and you want to stay at work to not see them, you know?
No, but now I'm leaving work early to record a podcast about Revenge of the Sith. That's what I did today.
Okay.
So this movie
Comes around.
this movie I'm finding Star Wars, whether you want it to or not, kind of becomes a recurring theme in your life if you let it in. It resurges every decade or so with a new trilogy or a new like spin-off that gets popular. And then it kind of goes away. And I that's the thing is I'm like, I've gotten to a point in my cycle with it where I'll just go ahead and say about this movie, I was 11 years old when it came out. I was squarely right in the strike zone to love a Star Wars movie that came out when I was that age. And I've spent most of my life defending it. I'm like, that's actually like a really like interesting, you know, it's got its flaws, but I think it's like actually it's actually really interesting what it's trying to do. And I think it's elevated by that fact. I came out of this viewing completely deflated, completely disabused of that
You
notion.
were so dead at the end of this. I was shocked at how disinterested you were. While I was so much on the other end, I was like, that was so much fun. I had such a blast doing this.
I used to feel that way because one, I said I watched this as an 11-year-old. This is such a bizarre movie for an 11-year-old to not only pay attention to for its entire runtime, but afterwards come away and be like, that was good. I like that.
Yeah.
That was a good thing for me to watch. I was pretty much from the opening scene, I was lost to the movie. Like, as in not
This
like
time?
not as yes, as in not like
Oh.
not like I wouldn't pay attention to it, but because I was shocked at how quickly I became, oh, this is not going to be a reclamation. This is not going to be me deciding I still like this.
Yeah.
I was, and I sat through it, and I remember all the beats of it, and it's an extremely dour movie.
Why do you say that?
It's like one.
I agree with Devin.
Yeah, it's, and I think that's the thing that a lot of its defenders will say is like a good. I'm like, it's crazy how dour and depressing
Yes.
this thing is for a big blockbuster, for, you know, the trilogy capper, for what people at the time
Right.
thought was going to be the last Star Wars movie, to be something like this. I think that just makes it an incredibly, like, it's a rough sit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I see it. Yeah. I
Not to jump the gun on I have so many thoughts here that I want to share, but I think in the past few years, I think like a lot of us, I've thought about the prequels so much over the past few years. And in my opinion, I think, well, this is something that I want to ask you too, because I think this really says a lot about who you are as a person. What is, I'll start this and then I'll get to my thoughts. What are your rankings of the prequels?
1, 2, 3.
3, 2, 1.
Wow.
No, 3, 1, 2. 3, 1, 2.
I'm,
2 is totally forgettable. I couldn't even tell you what the plot of that was.
Attack of the Clones is absolutely at the bottom for me. Then is Revenge of the Sith, and then I love Phantom Menace. So
I think
Yeah.
Phantom Menace is a really great, in a way that the original Star Wars is. It's a really great kids movie, and I don't mean that to
Yes.
denigrate it. I'm
No,
like,
no,
I do
legitimately.
remember it was something I had like an obsession with when I was in grade school. It was literally like they would show it at. I remember this specifically. It came out that summer. I went to see it. Loved it. It was I hadn't seen the originals beforehand.
Oh wow.
I think in that way that a lot of kids do. I saw that they were old movies and they looked like old movies, and in my mind, I just was like, ew, old. I don't want that. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I had engaged with it prior to that, but this one came out when I would have been 5 or 6. So again, right in that zone. I went and saw it, loved it, and then like for the next year, it stayed in like theaters just sporadically, and so it was like a reward for me. Like, oh, I like got a good score on a spelling test. We're gonna go see Phantom Menace again. I saw it like. I'm old enough. I remember. I'm like, yeah, we would go to like the dollar theater, and you would just
That's
go get
cool.
like $1 tickets. And I've seen this repeatedly.
How many times do you think?
Probably around like 10 or so as a
Wow.
little kid. And so I have that one like committed to memory, and I'm like, I know from personal data that it's really engaging for a kid. It has bright
Sure.
colors and big monsters, and things go fast, and it has like a really exciting lightsaber thing in it. And I will still throw that movie on and be like, yeah, 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Had a great time with it.
No, it's super fun. I'm glad that we all agree that Attack of the Clones is at the bottom. of the barrel.
Well, not me.
here.
I would put it above 3, honestly.
Well, okay. This is where my point was going before. I think Phantom Menace, in my opinion, is my favorite of the prequels. I think Revenge of the Sith is technically the best movie out of the 3, but it's not the most Star Wars movie. It's not. It doesn't have the Star Wars vibe to it, which is what. And I like Revenge of the Sith enough, but Phantom Menace has so much of that original Star Wars energy it that Revenge of the Sith just does not have at all.
It feels legitimately, and that movie also has its problems. There are like whole scenes where they're in the Senate and they're like, "We declare that we should."
That happens more in Attack of the Clones.
It's
though,
more in
I
the Attack
think.
of the Clones, but it exists. The scenes
yes,
of it are
absolutely,
are
yes.
And there are absolutely problem scenes like that. But I think for most of that movie's runtime, the reason why it works as like a piece of kids movie, as a piece of children's entertainment, is that it has a real swashbuckling adventure vibe to it.
Yeah,
and it's very engaging at that level. Even though, of course, it has its issues.
Yeah. Then they added politics into it, literally.
Kids.
Well, politics was already in Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
It's like the whole Trade Federation, like taxes and shit like that.
Let me ask you something. What is Padme?
She is.
What is that?
What is her role? What is she a princess?
Politically,
yeah,
she is in the first movie. She is a elected queen, so she is a queen, but that's an elected official on her planet. In between the first and second movies, she steps down at the end of her term as queen and is then elected to represent her planet in the Galactic Senate.
Oh,
yes. Isn't this scintillating conversation?
Crazy.
Children didn't love this shit.
That's
and then
okay.
she's a senator for the second movie and the saddest woman in the world in the third movie.
Yeah.
Aww.
I think
feel
she's
bad
still
for her in the
technically
third
a
one.
senator in that movie.
Technically, even though the Senate completely dissolved.
She
she did nothing about it.
I think Revenge of the Sith is a career worst performance for Natalie Portman, but I look at the way that script services her, and I really don't blame her for stopping showing up. Like, the only scenes she's in are where she's in her apartment.
Yep.
She's talking to Anakin, and they play out like domestic abuse dramas. Like, she's just kind of timidly walking around, and I hope please don't get too angry as we talk. And even the score is like this very discordant strings like.
Well, you don't see any of your relationship in that relationship at all?
My relationship?
Yeah.
I would hope not. No, I didn't find that relatable at all.
Okay, I'm going to take back my comments then.
Yeah, and the dialogue. Now that you bring those scenes up, those are like some of the funniest scenes ever, though, because the dialogue is so bad. I don't know. It's just like it is like the domestic. There's like some sort of. I didn't catch that at all, actually. To be honest, the domestic abuse like dialogue. I just thought that like it was so choppy. Like they were trying to get to like trying to get emotions out of both of them, but they just felt like both of them were just not real people.
Portman is straight up no longer trying. She's purely there because she's in the last movie and they need her around, but they need her to die by the end of it because she's not in the original movie, so they have to explain where she goes.
Yeah.
So she's literally
she's not even talked about in the original movie.
No, she's not.
Like, they don't ever like bring up like
they'll
Luke
say
and Leia's
say
mom.
Luke and Leia's mom is like the most reference they ever get to it. There's actually like clunky dialogue that like makes continuity errors where like Leia will talk about being raised by her mother, and then afterwards there's a retcon and they'll say, actually, that's her adoptive mother. That actually isn't really. That's no, totally. We had it all figured out in 1977.
We didn't digitally re-edit this in 2004 with horrible CGI.
There's no explicit reference to her in those original movies. She is in this movie for no other reason than to kind of like to give birth and die. That is the only reason she
did a good job. At that,
I mean, to be fair, like checklist item.
Sure.
Done,
Here's my question: do any of the Star Wars movies pass the Bechdel test?
The new ones for sure.
No.
I think they do really superficially, like how
because they were thinking about it?
Carrie Fisher's ghost is in like a really
It's like post her death also, but
in the most of course tasteful and artfully done way possible. It appears posthumously in the last Star Wars. They keep saying they're gonna make another one. It's been 4 years since then. we'll see. None of they always stop right before production. I don't know if you guys saw a couple like weeks ago, the initial release date for what was supposed to be Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie passed. Like it was supposed to release. It was supposed to release this Christmas weekend initially. And that's a movie that is now just, I think like not happening in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's in a weird limbo right now.
All of them are.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Well, why don't people like, besides like the fake woke politics aspect of it all, like why don't people like the new sequels?
I'll say, at least for me, and I've been meaning to rewatch the Disney sequels. It feels a little empty. They don't have character to me, at least. And at least the prequels are bad, but they have so much character to them, which is why they're so fun to me.
Yeah, though Star Wars has always been a primarily like this is not like some novel thought. It has always been a way to sell toys first and foremost.
Yes.
What? So no, like literally that was the I believe the original Star Wars was made because George Lucas couldn't get the rights to make a Flash Gordon movie.
Wow.
So
right, no, that's true. Yes.
He reskinned a script that he had and was like, it's Star Wars now. And the initial, the initial contract he had, his money was primarily going to come from merchandising. But to what you're saying about how there's actual character there, those movies are still engineered to sell toys of vehicles and monsters and Jedi.
Yeah.
But they're driven by the idiosyncrasies of George Lucas, who has one of the most interesting minds that's ever existed in American filmmaking.
Yes.
You can argue whether all his films are good or bad. I would argue they're not all one or the other. But he's there in the movie. I think that's actually my biggest issue with Revenge of the Sith is it feels like a movie he didn't even want to make. It's kind of being made out of obligation because he's like, well, I guess I gotta figure.
Yes.
I gotta finish this. Basically, a thing I noticed here is that once General Grievous dies, the rest of the movie is just a checklist of plot points to get you to where the next movie starts.
Wow, yeah, that's very true. Well, Phantom Menace he put so much of himself into Phantom Menace, and then once that flopped, I think he really became detached for the next two.
I think he really thought that what he had with Phantom Menace was going to be like universally beloved. I really think he put it out there. He's like, oh man, people are going to love this.
And I think he detached, or maybe it was more like studio intervention, but I would have really loved to see what the next two movies would have been like if he had put in the same effort for Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
I think that would have been really cool.
I agree. It would be nice if he had tried to make a good movie. I think anything that's good in Revenge of the Sith is like largely accidental. It's just like little character moments that are, or like a character, like an actor being so bored with the lack of direction they're clearly receiving, they just go insane. Like Ian McDiarmid going completely bug nuts, like crazy, playing like literally twirling a mustache.
Yes. I also think he gets away with this coming off well because this is the first really dark Star Wars movie. And because it's breaking new ground, even though it's not really breaking new ground, I think it's easy to watch this and be like, whoa, this is so innovative for like when it's like, no, this is just a simple step in the right, not even the right direction, but a different direction.
It is different from one that's been made.
It's a take.
Yeah.
It's a take.
But that's the thing is I respond that way, the same way I do anything. I'm like, well, that's a take.
Yes.
That is
for people who just want to cling on to something, they're like, oh my God, it's there's something happening. There's some character like I'm talking about before to this, at least.
That kind of connects to a thing I want to talk about with the prequel movies specifically. And with regards to like reception, reclamation, and like online culture.
Yeah.
Several years ago, I don't know the exact timelines of all this. I feel like around the time of the Disney sale, there was this big resurgence of people who were saying, actually, those are really good. Those are actually the best ones.
Yeah.
And it was because people my age, our age, were now aging into using the internet more often and engaging with other forms of media and ranking them and saying this one's better, this one's, not as good as the other. And around that time, I can't believe I'm already here doing doing a podcast about a Star Wars episode, and I'm going to mention Reddit. But there was a subreddit called Prequel Memes that gained a lot of traction for literally memes about 3 specific movies, became one of like the highest traffic subreddits on the website.
Yeah.
And to the point that like every single line in those movies just became like a macro image.
Well, we were at the fucking movie theater, and the people in front of us were bringing out their phones every time one of these lines got brought out. Like it was a concert.
The third one, like pretty much in every scene, and I'm like confident in this. In every scene, there was like a line that has been like a meme on that subreddit. I'm like, like I said, like I'm not a huge Star Wars, like I'm not a super fan, but even I was like.
But that's how
deep entrenched in that. Yeah. And like, I knew all of the the funny meme lines that they said, hello there.
Yeah. So that literally the person who introduced the showing came out and said, hello there to the crowd. Yeah. And so let's talk about the crowd a little bit. There were, I would probably say less than 20 people. It wasn't an empty screen.
I thought it was going to be more packed than I don't know. I've never done a midnight screening before, I think. So I thought there would be more people there. It was pretty timid.
I think it's because the people who come out to midnight screenings, generally, they want something that feels a little bit more, how exactly do I put it? It transgressive a little bit. Horror movies are really popular. Something that's, more violent, I feel like, is more of something you go to watch at midnight.
Yeah.
But I figured that, with obviously, Star Wars is popular on its own.
Yeah.
And this is really, the age group of people who go to these types of screenings, late 20s to early 30s, are the people who grew up with these. So I actually initially was like refreshing the website, thinking this was going to sell out. I'm like, I want to make sure I get those tickets so that I know that we go there and there's just, and I'm like, don't worry, there's going to be a line, fellas. And we show up and, probably less than 20 people is probably, but she goes, hello there. And then she holds the mic out to the audience and everyone is like, I'm putting my coat on my seat. Why are you, and she's like, you're supposed to say General Kenobi. And I'm like, I know the funny line. I don't need to.
I thought people were going to like show up in costume. Cause like, I thought that's just like what you do at like Star Wars like screenings is like, you see like these videos of people dressed up.
I now really wish we had. Cause I think the degree to which we would have felt like assholes. We'd be like, oh, I actually, they like size you up. Like, I actually don't think we can let you in the theater. You look like a danger to yourself and others.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great point of just how far removed the franchise has been from what it originally was, because there was the cultural conception at the time that just like every Star Wars like fan who goes to the theaters is going to dress up and be such a nerd about it. And we were there. It really did feel like that Reddit crowd that you were describing, where it's like, okay, time to pull out my phone for this meme thing, and then I have to do this 10 minutes later. Also,
yeah, I guess those are the people who are going to actually come out to the midnight
screening.
Midnight screening. Too.
Yeah,
we're not like those guys.
No,
we're
people
cool.
like us are trying to create content out of it. Actually,
we're different people.
We're actually spending more time thinking about it than they are.
You don't understand. We actually booked separate time to go sit and discuss it. That's different from
from those
next point. So, but yeah, I love going to the IFC Center.
Yes,
this is typically this is not a thing I run into. I actually can't really think of many showings I've gone to aside for like really obscure movies where I've gone and there hasn't at least been like a half full theater. Like I went on like a weeknight once to go see Seed of Chucky, which is like the 5th one in the franchise.
Okay,
and it was a full theater.
That's awesome.
So normally it being, a later entry in a franchise or a less loved one like this movie is not a problem normally at the IFC. It's very weird. We went there and there was no one there.
And IFC is like a pretty popular theater.
I know.
It's like, it's right there,
it's
right
by NYU.
Right? Like,
I was like, where are all the NYU students coming here to like sit here and talk about how this thing is secretly genius?
No. We went maybe during winter break though. I think that was it.
Oh,
the week it was winter break.
This was like
that's why it was so empty. Holy shit!
Oh no, that's the only reason why. It was
definitely Star Wars is still cool.
Yeah, no,
just the kids weren't there.
Definitely smart to sit around and talk about it for a long time.
Definitely would have felt better if a lot of college students were there, actually.
Yeah.
My ego wouldn't have been as bruised.
I don't know.
Because the best part about going to see those movies is like that you can say like you're part of that generation. You're like, well, this is my movie. Your movies suck. You kids who are watching this now, the movies that you have now are trash.
It's funny that you say that because I was telling Devin about this. My one IFC Center story is a little adjacent to that, where this was like 8 years ago at this point, but I went to go see the like Jim Jarmusch did an Iggy and the Stooges documentary, and I went to go see it with some college friends at the IFC Center. And after the movie, while the credits are rolling, we just hear this guy behind us, and he goes, "Nobody here gets what was going on in this movie except for me." And
he said that out loud?
Yes. And me and my friends just look at each other and we're like, who the fuck is this guy? Then we're hanging out for a bit, and then I go use the line, go to the bathroom, and then I go to the bathroom and I see who the guy was. It was Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth, who was in the movie also.
Oh, so yeah.
Which is why I was like, actually, this is valid, actually. This is
it's fine that he did that.
More than valid.
I wasn't expecting that to be how the story ends. I'm like, it was actually an appropriate response.
No, it was.
The crowd acted.
And then my favorite part of the story, I went to go talk to Thurston afterwards. I was like, hey, man, like I'm such a big fan of your work. And he said, we were on the first floor like when we were talking about this, and he was like, yeah, like Steve's over there buying some Raisinets right now. And I didn't realize until later, he was referring to Steve Shelley from Sonic Youth also, the drummer of Sonic Youth. So half of Sonic Youth was at the IFC Center with me watching the Iggy and the Stooges documentary with the guys of nobody here gets this. Our shit is better than these people's shit.
Oh, shit. Wait, so they were in the movie
They were in the movie being interviewed about Iggy in that era of punk rock. Yeah. No, but at first you just hear this dude, like this old head being like, nobody here gets this.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, he's right.
Yeah.
He's actually 100% correct.
He's right. They didn't get it. They didn't.
I'm not going to get this as much as you, Mr. Moore.
Had you been there before, Sebass?
I've never been inside, no, but I've passed by it so many times. I'm familiar with the theater. Never seen a movie there. First time.
It's
okay.
It's the theater or the movie? The
theater. Like, it's okay.
I think it's fun. Did you go downstairs to the bathroom?
No, I didn't.
It is made up entirely of like blinding lights, like positioned right up against mirrors. It's really disorienting to go
Why
down.
Why do they do that?
I don't know. So
the
NYU kids can, like,
I guess,
can go, can like really feel it right after they do a line of coke. I don't know.
At the IFC Center. I had a weird
That's
thing.
where all the cool kids go.
I had a weird thing happen where, so you and I got there early. We got some pizza. I was waiting outside to give Sebass his. Also, wait, we didn't even talk about this. We thought it was going to be packed, and so I was like, I'll wait outside for Sebass to give him his ticket so you can get a seat.
You go secure a spot for us.
That's what I thought it was going to be like. Anyway. While I was waiting for Sebastian, and we texted about this afterwards, so many people that we went to high school with walked by the movie theater. I guess because there's shit around there that like people from Westchester, like bars or shit. It was so bizarre. And I usually like to say hi to people, but I was so embarrassed.
What you were about to go do
tonight.
I think that is maybe the worst case scenario.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
So what are you up to now? Conversation.
I'm here at midnight to see Revenge of the Sith.
It's going really good. Thanks for asking. But it's going back to like the difference between the way that these are treated by their generation versus the I'm not in love with like all of the new movies, but I think they're all like basically competently put together for the most part. I don't like the last one, but
I completely agree. Yeah.
The like frankly unwarranted hatred that those get, like that people get really, really riled up about them.
Well, people, I feel like the bad people, quote unquote, only get mad about Last Jedi. And that's the fucking best one out of the three.
Yeah, but you just mentioned the most irritating movie of all time
Last
to
Jedi?
have any conversation about.
I didn't pay attention to any of this discourse when it was happening, so I don't really know. It's
the sort of thing. It's like it's a movie that I one thumb up like.
Yeah,
I think it's a well-directed movie with good things about it. I'm not as effusive about it as some people are. But it's a sort of movie that you can't actually express any detractions from without immediately being lumped in with the worst people on the internet.
Yeah,
sure.
Because they're all you'll give like an actual criticism of that movie, a thing that I'm actually a little afraid to actually put out there, a recording of me saying something at all negative about it, because the idea of somebody might take that as an opportunity to be like, that's right, and women shouldn't vote. Like that, immediately you just get lumped in with the most extreme angry people.
Devin, that's how you get listeners for this podcast, though. You got
controversy.
Any news is good news, okay? You gotta.
Wait, so what's the controversial opinion? That it's good or that it's bad?
There's not even a good answer to that question. That's the thing, is I think that like critics basically all like it. Before it came out, Lucasfilm execs were all really happy with the direction it was going. There wasn't a lot of negative buzz, before it came out. And then since it's been out, it's a sort of movie that gets review bombed, or they say it's disrespectful to the legacy of Luke Skywalker, a guy who is not a real person. And doesn't have, but I don't know if you know this, like fictional characters, they're not real. They don't have, they don't have kids and stuff like that. So like if I erase them on a paper, they don't exist anymore. So they don't really have legacies, but people get mad about that. And then of course, it's a movie where the main character is a woman. And so there's a certain subset of people that it doesn't matter how good or bad the movie is. That's just a non-starter for them to begin with.
Sure.
I don't even remember what like the big, like what the bad faith takes are about that movie anymore.
The term that goes through my brain is character service. Was that the term that got thrown out at the time?
What is the difference between character service and fan service then?
I truly don't know.
Okay.
Is that two different things?
They may very well not be.
Character service. I've never heard of that term before.
I was about to say, you said a new thing, so I was like,
I remember that term getting thrown around so much when I could be wrong here. I think, like you were talking about, from my understanding, I could be dead wrong here. People just being upset about the direction of the Luke Skywalker character, and that he deserved better.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing about the idea of like, oh, the legacy of this character.
No, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, like, okay.
I agree.
Thinking about it, what's so wrong with his legacy? Because it's in his blood. And I'll say it. It's in his blood to kill children, okay?
The midichlorians.
His father did it. The midichlorians. Well, he just tried to kill a kid. So what? His father killed like
shocker
hundreds of them.
Not like there's
it's gonna happen if you're a Skywalker.
Not like there's a precedent for. That was the scene that obviously I knew was coming. I've seen this movie a bunch of times. Yeah. I've seen this movie and liked that scene's place within it previously. But in an abstract way, I can watch that scene and say, it's crazy that this scene exists in a Star Wars movie. That's to be commended on its own. It's still just, this is a movie that's pitched at teenagers and children. Like they're supposed to be interested in watching this. Yeah. And there's a scene where the main character, in his process of becoming Space Hitler, goes and like cuts down a bunch of children.
Yeah.
A thing that you are like 1 second from seeing on screen.
Yeah.
This movie has like, that is, without actually being like explicit or subversive, which is what I think people really want it to be, going back to like the way that like reclamation projects works and internet culture can affect a thing. They see that in there. And if you actually saw him, I don't think that this is a good idea, but if you actually saw him like cutting down kids and like that was like a scene, that was like a sequence in it, that would be actually subversive. And I think because it gets so up close to it, people who have a familiarity with this thing because it's precious from their childhood, they're like, because it gets close to being interesting, that must mean that it's good. And
I think this is a great point. Yeah. I very much agree.
I thought and we're talking about the youngling slaughter scene.
The youngling slaughter scene.
I thought that scene is so funny.
Again,
because knowing what's happened, like knowing what's going to happen, just like the scene, just like the framing of it all, it's like a little kid.
I know.
This little kid.
I know.
And then the lightsaber comes on. It's like, what's going to happen here?
They get the cutest little kid of all time, just like looking up, like the camera shoots him right down from the.
I've never seen that scene without knowing what was going to happen. I can't imagine watching that and being like, wait, what's going on here actually?
There had to have been some people who, because internet culture existed but wasn't totally pervasive at that point.
Yeah.
So there had to have been some people who were like, I think I'll go see the new Star Wars
No,
flick,
exactly.
didn't know that there was that
Yes.
the end was he would become Darth Vader.
Oh.
And they were like, kind of a dark twist ending there.
Yeah, and kind of out of nowhere. I'll be honest, kind of like
Wasn't expecting
he didn't
it.
need to do that.
Yeah.
He didn't need to kill the kids.
I thought you were going to say he didn't need to become Darth Vader.
No, he didn't. I watch that movie every time I watch it, and this is I watch it and I hope that like he doesn't become Darth Vader at the end, because I think he's like,
if I pray hard enough, all the movies on him.
if I watch this movie a little differently, maybe he won't slaughter the younglings and live a happy life. But I think the actor Hayden Christensen, I think he's a charismatic guy, and I like the Anakin Skywalker character.
I think the character in concept is it's a good idea. The idea of kind of like the fallen here. You know, these are big archetypical adaptations of, you know, like Joseph Campbell hero's journey stuff. You know, George Lucas has been pretty open about like, he's like, I was working from that playbook initially the entire time, that I wanted this to be representative of just like any hero in any story. And so the idea of then twisting that a little bit and making him into the ultimate bad guy is a good one. I like that on paper. I can't say this is a good performance.
No, I think it completely was because of the script though, because it just felt so forced. Like, this guy has to become Darth Vader. What would Darth Vader do? Kill kids? Okay, yeah. Well, let's just drop that halfway through the movie and let's have this character just like completely not listen to reason or any of the people that he's grown up with for the past like 10, 20 years. It's a problem with prequels in general, but like this movie is not for as like indulgent as it is of George Lucas's whims. There's not actually space for it to be its own movie, because it has to end with certain pieces on the board in certain places,
including wiping the memory of R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Yeah. C-3PO can't remember the last 3 movies. Hayden Christensen has to be Darth Vader now. Padme has to be dead. Obi-Wan has to, over the course of 10 years, be 40 years older. Like, that's all these things have to get set up, and then the movie basically, like I said earlier, just basically becomes a list of making sure that all those things are there for continuity.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of space for other stuff. And then the other stuff they do make sense is, by the way, I know it never came up, but Yoda and Chewbacca are friends. That's the stuff they make room for. And I'm like, kind of whiplash from seeing these kids get mowed down 10 minutes ago. You know?
I think it's pretty dope that Yoda and Chewbacca are tight like that.
Did Yoda and Chewbacca even talk to each other in like the original movies?
Oh, in the no, of course not. No.
So they just added that just for fun.
Oh yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
That is awesome. I would love to see a Yoda and Chewbacca movie where they just.
I like the idea of them just like
thing.
hanging out when they were both younger, when they were both like 500 years old instead of 900 years old.
Baby Chewbacca. Somebody's got to do something with that.
Ooh, that
like
could be huge.
Teen Chewbacca.
You know? Young Chewbacca, young Sheldon.
Dazed and confused with Yoda and Chewbacca just hanging out.
I love young Chewbacca's or what's the fucking Matthew McConaughey? That's Dazed and Confused, right? Where he's like, I love teenage girls.
Oh yeah.
What is the Chewbacca version of that?
I don't know.
That's what I love about.
That's what I love about Ewoks. They stay the same. I keep on getting older.
It's mostly this is coming soon to Disney Plus, by the way, but it's primarily about Chewbacca having a weird fetish for Ewoks, and how that's like, how Yoda's like, you know, like, I'm short like them too. This is kind of awkward for me.
What's going on here? They develop their relationship.
Yoda's actually very PC and really cares about.
He is. Yoda's chill.
Yeah.
I thought when we were watching it, I feel like everyone was cracking up. At least maybe just us, like, was cracking up anytime like Yoda opened his mouth. Just like the
weird kind of backwards speak.
Yeah.
It's really, there's not actually any there's no pattern to it. It's not like, well, what happens is that the verb moves to this part of the sentence. That's not how it is. It's like he just wrote the sentence of dialogue, randomly moved 3 words to different areas, and then that's just how he speaks. And you kind of, like, in the way that, like, if you like talk to somebody with dementia, you can get the basic gist of what they're trying to get across.
Oh, poor Yoda.
Nah, he does it on purpose.
By the way,
because it's so disjointed, we know that he's just fucking with us.
Functionally within this movie, Yoda really sucks. Like he spends
throughout all the prequels, he sucks.
Which is like it's like you said, it's like this movie can't really be its own thing. It has to set something else up instead. So Yoda, who is set up in the earlier movies as this kind of like wizened old.
In the originals, Yoda is the coolest motherfucker. Here, he is the nerdiest dude.
And you have no reason to doubt his competence, though. You're like, I believe it when you say like, oh yeah, he's a master Jedi. What these movies do is I'm like, he was an idiot who didn't know that, you know, like Mussolini was right under his nose. Like, and it was like electrocuting people in front of him.
Right. He can feel Jedis being killed galaxies away, but like doesn't.
But he can't beat, what's his name at the end of episode 2.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like he like gets to like a downbeat in the fight and he's like, well, I gotta go.
Wait a minute! I'm in the next movie. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
2 movies from now, I gotta be in a swamp. I should probably get there. I should work on that now. So it just doesn't. Nothing happens because it would make sense for the character or because it would be exciting. It happens because it has to set something else up.
It's a very mathematical movie in that way, where there's not a lot of the only emotions in this one are the fucking dark like shit like that they like try out, which is only impressive, like I said earlier, because they're just trying something new with Star Wars. There's no real heart or anything behind it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that this movie functions primarily to set up another movie that already happened, when what has largely happened to commercial filmmaking now and blockbusters is that they largely exist to set up movies that haven't happened yet. They're not, the actions of the characters don't happen because it would be good for this character to do this thing at this time. They happen because we need them to show up in a sequel where they fight a new villain later down the line.
And what's and that's okay. So I know I'm thinking of another criticism for The Last Jedi, and it's one of them is like that Palpatine like comes back, right? Like that was like the biggest. He somehow he survived.
He comes back in the next one.
Which one?
9, the last Star Wars movie to come out.
That's not The Last Jedi.
No.
Then why did they name it The Last? Wait. Then what is?
Because Luke
Force Awakens, The Last Jedi,
The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh my god! Holy shit! Okay.
Sebass is like finding out that this movie exists.
The Last Jedi. You hear like Last Jedi, you think like maybe it's just me. I just think last. This is the last movie.
It's a traditionalist. Sure. If you put last in your name, you have to be the last in your trilogy.
Right. Revenge, like it's naming like the first one, Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. Like what?
And Sebass is like, for that reason, Kathleen Kennedy should go to jail.
Yeah. Who's Kathleen Kennedy?
She's the president of Lucasfilm. I think she's often targeted by bad faith internet people that I know an embarrassing amount about, and who are say like, oh, she's ruining Star Wars. She's I think just somebody to attach that to.
Yeah. Not George Lucas, the guy, the mind behind it.
He sold it in 2015. He has nothing to do with it.
He's not involved in any of the movies?
No, like emphatically not. Like he'll be like, hey guys, I have a script for you. And they're like, that's great, George. We'll pin it to the fridge. Wow. And they just make, episode 7 from there. So he's actually like been open to the idea of like, I'll be a consulting producer or something.
Yeah. And I think they've given him very little wiggle room, if any.
Yeah. They're like, cracks knuckles. We got this. And then, I don't know that those movies are like, I think when Force Awakens came out, it became the highest grossing movie of all time. So they knew what they were doing for a time. People were excited about it. And when that movie came out, the word on it wasn't, this is terrible, this is a horrible follow-up. When it came out, people were like, they liked it. They were like, oh, cool, it's great, it's good. It's a functional blockbuster that's fun and distracting in all the ways that an action movie should be. I don't know. Yeah, I think this movie that ostensibly we're here to talk about, that we've mostly just talked about how it's affected things that have later come out and been made. This movie's dourness is why people were so anxious for something that's kind of like flighty and light and easy to digest.
I guess so. Yeah. Can I tell my Star Wars lore?
Yeah, of course.
Real quick, because I think it might add some context on my end, at least. I watched the originals. My dad showed them to me when I was like in elementary school. I think like a lot of people had that experience. But then what happened was I have a brother who's 5 years younger than me. And when he got into like elementary school, he became Star Wars obsessed. Like watched all the movies all the time, read all the books, like just like got insanely extended universe, just like everything. And we shared a room together. And so it was just everywhere. And so I became completely disinterested in anything Star Wars related because I was like, this shit's everywhere. It's boring as fuck. I never even watched any of the prequels.
As like a contrarian thing, or just like was it literally like my brother's into it, so it's dumb?
Yeah.
It wasn't. I guess it was more contrarian, but it was more just like, I don't feel like I have the space to have an original take on this.
Sure.
Because this dude who I live with it's just like, this isn't my thing at all.
Yeah. I hate when your little brother has a take on it and you're like, he's like, I think Star Wars is good. Fuck, that was going to be mine. No, I can't.
I hate Star Wars.
But he was so passionate about it in a way that I didn't feel connected to.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
That I was like, and then as time goes, well, this is where it's going. And this goes into our lore also a bit as friends.
Interested to hear how this pans out.
Ties into you. So I was very disinterested in Star Wars for a while after that because I did like it, but like I said, I just didn't like it in the same way that he liked it, and but I didn't exactly understand what that even meant at the time. And then once the pandemic hits, one of the things that helped me get through the pandemic was the live stream, the George Lucas talk show.
Yes.
Which the quick concept there is just that it's comedian Connor Ratliff. He plays George Lucas, who hosts like a talk show. That's George Lucas. The sidekick is, I think, Griffin Newman, who plays Watto in it.
Yes. You know what? I actually realized it's more complex because we didn't actually go to this show together.
No, well, so I'll get to that. It was just when the pandemic was happening and this was streaming, it was the coolest thing in the world to me because somebody was making new cool art during the pandemic. So it happened once a week. I grasped onto it. Like if you were in my house, like you would constantly just hear me say George Lucas talk show, George Lucas talk show. But through that, and they would do like 4-hour live streams once a week during lockdown. It was fucking nuts. But through that got me interested in Star Wars again because I was like, oh, I like these guys' take on it. And then I finally sat down again to watch the prequels for the first time ever in like 2021 at this point. And it completely just changed my perception of it all. And I am fascinated by George Lucas now so much because of this comedy show. Just the concept of like an artist who has way too much money for their own good is so fascinating to me. And George Lucas falls into that category. Bob Dylan falls into that category where it's like,
where it's you reach a point where nobody is really even allowed to give you notes.
Exactly. And then it's like, what the fuck do you even do at that? Like Bob Dylan now, he tours and he does Frank Sinatra covers. You get to a certain point as an artist where you're like, I can do whatever the fuck I want at this point. I think that's fascinating to me.
What does George Lucas do?
The whole thing is that like he makes movies in his basement, like pretty much, that he doesn't like release out into the world.
Effectively retired.
Yeah.
Right.
He makes experimental short films. I think he's been trying to open.
He's been trying to open the George Lucas Museum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. Yes. To open up your own museum about yourself.
No. It's about modern art. It's about modern art. So it has like
Norman
Rockwell and like
it just has his name on it.
Yeah, but it's been taking forever to build.
In the naming committee, it's like, what should we name this art museum?
Well, it's about the great.
I kind of like the George Lucas Museum. Yeah. I think it's a pretty good. Does everyone here agree?
Yeah.
The George Lucas.
We agree.
I think the answer to that question is, what does George Lucas do when he is given complete, like no questioning status? Is he makes the first prequel, he makes Phantom Menace the way he wants to make. That's a movie that I think he's excited about making. And then people are like, we don't like this. And then he makes Attack of the Clones, which has kind of a panicked, let's throw as much at the wall as we possibly can energy to it.
Yes, I do think it was part him letting go, but also 20th Century Fox coming in being like, we're going to take some of this from here.
And they're like, that movie the reason why I probably slightly prefer it over Revenge, they're both quite bad movies, but the reason why I probably slightly prefer it is because I'm like, there's at least, that movie is at least trying to be a bunch of different type of entertaining movies, and it's really not succeeding at any of them.
Right.
But like the movie kind of begins as like a bit of a detective noir, and then at some point it becomes like more of a traditional action movie. It has elements of kind of like Harryhausen to it. It's got a little bit of a swashbuckling element to it. I kind of like moments of that movie.
Yeah, the diner scenes in there are so fucking fun.
Because you can see, yes, his confidence is shaken because I think he was the type of guy who thought, whatever I put out, they're going to fucking love it because I just can't miss. And I think that movie is him trying to make a movie that he's excited about making, but for the first time in his life, actually having received like sizable criticism.
Sure.
And having to reckon with that as a person who's lived most of his adult life without actually having to face his shortcomings.
Right.
And then Revenge of the Sith is such this like sad sack mope to the finish where he's like, I guess I'll make it.
Yeah.
You guys were so mean to me the last 2 times.
And I
guess I'll make it anyway.
Do you think he's taking out a lot of his animosity through this also, just through how dark it is?
I think that's why it's such a dour,
I never thought about that before.
Movie.
Yeah. But anyway, just to round out my whole shit, it goes back to our friendship because I had George Lucas Talk Show does live shows now. I was supposed to go to one last December and I got COVID, and you and Bobby
2 Decembers ago now.
You and Bobby ended up with the tickets for that. And I had never met you at all. And it was so funny watching the live stream, seeing Bobby and Devin sitting in the audience.
Yeah. So that's how we met, is that I took your ticket
to the
George Lucas Talk Show. And that's how it relates to Revenge of the Sith.
Yes. But going back to the stuff with my brother also, I think one of the things that I realized through liking George Lucas Talk Show so much was just how much, just talking about there's a character and there's a brightness and there's a funness to Star Wars that when it's fun, I really love Star Wars a lot. And my brother just loves all the fucking nitty gritty, like detail, like mundane, like fact, like shit. And so that was, I think, one of the things that I just never connected with him on. But once I finally did watch the prequels, he and I got into several fights
oh my God.
afterwards about just with our different takes on it. You know, I'm trying to think. We got into a fight about whether or not Watto is problematic, you know, and I was having the fight in a fun way.
What would be problematic about Watto?
Yeah.
I don't understand why a big nosed, slave trader with a particular accent living in the desert. I really don't know what would be the issue with that.
And I was when we were having that argument, I was having a fun and light time with it while he was taking it super seriously and super personally, which is part of I think the inner, not even inner conflict, but the conflict that I have with Star Wars in general. There's a self-seriousness that comes to Star Wars that once that comes into play, I'm out. That it's so unappealing to me.
Yes. I think for a lot of people, their relationship to this movie and this series, a big part of it is like all caps, liking Star Wars is a personality trait.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Yes.
And the extended universe stuff and the amount of minutia that's there if you want. You're right. You don't need it if you want to have a good time with the movies, but it's all there if you want it. There is an element of learning all that stuff that I think makes people feel that because of their investment in it, they're owed something.
Yes, they have personal stakes. Yeah.
Like, but you've never actually, that's the thing for most of these people, you've never been in a Star Wars movie. You haven't written any of the books that only people like you read.
Yeah.
But they still have that feeling that they're owed it to be the thing that they've been investing in so much, so that when there is a change, that's, I think, why people get so upset by it, because they're like, you don't understand. This is not just a movie to me. And that's their mistake, that they've made it into more than a movie.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You think that's like Luke, like whoever's making these movies mistake, you're saying, is making him expand the universe?
No. I think when they make a big character decision with Luke Skywalker in a movie, right? And somebody's take is, well, that's not what Luke's. Yes, it is. The guy who was writing Luke Skywalker made that decision for him. And you can argue whether that's consistent with previous appearances in other movies or what have you, or you can but what you're actually arguing and what you're not saying is, well, that's not how I imagined it. And it's like, well, they didn't hire you to write the script. So tough shit.
Yeah.
And I think that's you say that to most people, they shut down and they don't want to actually have the conversation with you because they're like, well, that's not actually conducive to me getting what I want. So this conversation is over now and you're a cuck. And that's kind of where that just ends.
Yeah. No, the way that I've come back to loving Star Wars again is I thought that was the only way you could like Star Wars.
Yeah. That you had
Die hard or
truly.
Yeah. Because there's also the element of the like, you see this not just in Star Wars, but in like a lot of different nerd fandoms.
Yeah,
video
Ghostbusters. I think about that all the time with them.
The idea of being a casual, of just liking something sometimes and then having a full and fulfilling life outside of that is a thing that is hated within a lot of, nerd communities.
Yeah. And that's
because, and I'll just say this, it's because a lot of people don't have any like other things going on.
Oh yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Is there?
That's right. If you like Star Wars, we're saying you're a loser.
Yeah. If you ever think of like having a strong opinion about a Star Wars movie, go outside.
Yeah. I don't know. It would be embarrassing to have a strong opinion about a movie. I don't know.
This is making me realize my brother started dating somebody a year and a half ago. Oh. And I don't think we've talked about Star Wars since that has happened. So.
I know. I hate to be that reductive to it. Because it's like get a girlfriend, start lifting, you'll be fine. But I'm like, I really do think I'm like, if you just made this less of your life, you can still like it.
Yeah.
You will like it.
It'll make you happier.
Yes. Well, if you make it less of your life, you can go back to liking it. That's kind of the thing.
No, but that's what happened with exactly. Yeah. And I love Star Wars so much now from this perspective that I have, especially, I don't know, it's just fun to watch all art and be like, oh, this is weird, but I respect that some artist made this choice, or not even respect, but it's cool to watch an artist make a wild choice.
Yes. And I think that's what a lot of people want to see in Revenge of the Sith. The idea that it is this series of audacious, wild choices. But I can't look at a movie whose primary function is to get all these characters in place for a movie that happened at that point 25 years ago. I'm like, that's not him making big, wild choices.
It's not
That's
conscious.
him making predetermined choices that he painted himself into a corner of a long time ago. These aren't big swings. If anything, this is like the least daring movie ever, because like him actually making big decisions would be him just not adhering to that and saying fuck you to anybody who cares.
No, that's a great point.
And nothing even happens in that movie. Like, no, I don't think a decision is even made until like the last 30 minutes of the movie when
and then they're like, oh shit,
wrong.
We got to clean this mess up, and make sure everything is.
It's a pretty boring movie for the first like 2/3 of it. I mean, then it gets fucking awesome with their final duel. That's like I think that's like the best part of any Star Wars.
It is
franchise.
In most movies. I think by the low standards of this movie, I would agree that yes, it is the best part of this movie
for sure. Just the score too.
Oh my god, yeah.
The
score is incredible.
I would say that like John Williams is the one element of these three movies that functions on all cylinders. Like I was talking about the kind of the domestic scenes. I'm like, those scenes are quite bad and they're poorly acted and poorly written. But the score is totally appropriate for that type of drama.
Yeah.
It is, it does elevate things in the way that it needs to. But so much of this movie, I think, wants to be predicated on this falling out between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I'm like, by the way, we didn't go through the plot of this movie. I'm not going through the plot of this movie. I'm sorry. We're just going to touch on the different points that we have. I assume you, like all people, have been federally mandated to see this movie and all 10 other ones at some point in your life.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever met somebody who didn't know that Anakin was Darth Vader?
Have you?
Yes.
Whoa. Where? What happened?
When?
My friend Pat, he had never seen any of the Star Wars movies. And one day we were like, let's just sit down and watch them all from the beginning, from like in I forget if we watched them. Yeah, in chronological order in the timeline of Star Wars.
Yeah,
so we started with
the
prequels.
Yeah.
and he didn't know. And then finally he got spoiled from like the Disney Plus description saying in this movie, and like literally said Anakin's turn to Darth Vader and his journey, like dancing. That like, fuck, what the hell? This is
like
the last
literally
person
as you were getting set up to go watch.
Yeah, before the movie.
That would've been
This is the
awesome.
last
This is the
person
last man in America
who doesn't know that, and you just ruined it for him. God damn it.
I
And
mean,
we stopped watching after
maybe
that.
you could maybe do
We didn't
this.
get through the
You
whole
could maybe do
thing.
this to like an Amish person on Rumspringa. Like you could maybe be like, I'm going to show you these movies. Don't look at the Disney Plus descriptions and be like, what is Disney Plus? I'm like, shut up and just sit down. I know you only got 2 weeks because that's how long it's going to take to get through all these.
Yeah.
I don't think I have ever met an adult who didn't at least like know Anakin is Darth Vader and Darth Vader is Luke's dad. I think those are the two big spoilers that pretty much everybody knows.
Did you guys know that before watching the movies? Or I mean, you've never seen the originals, but so that doesn't really. I just vividly remember. I don't remember when I found out that Anakin and Darth Vader were the same person, but in my house when I was a kid, we had like a Yoda like trivia toy, and I guess we hadn't gone to.
He just spoiled.
He didn't spoil that. He spoiled that Luke and Leia were brother and sister. And I went up to my dad and I was like, "This thing is broken. This thing is wrong." And my dad had to be like,
they put the wrong audio in it.
Yeah.
Actually, they kissed each other.
No, that's what I thought as a child. I was like, I had seen the one where they had kissed, and so I was like, "This can't be true." My dad had to be like, "No, that's that's actually correct."
I love that he sits you down. Like it's like telling you Santa doesn't.
Yeah.
No,
it's like they're actually brother and sister.
Yes.
That's a weird thing. It's sometimes brothers and sisters kiss. Don't do it. But like, you know, it's.
But before you watched Star Wars, did you know? Did you have the visual experience of realizing that?
Well, when I saw my first Star Wars movie, it was Phantom Menace. I was 5 years old.
Sure, yeah.
I hadn't seen the others. I think just due to like toys and merchandising, I knew Darth Vader existed and I knew what that imagery was.
Yeah.
The idea of Han Solo or Luke at the time was like really boring to me because they weren't costume. They were just guys.
Yeah, right.
You know,
yes.
they were. It wasn't like, oh, Harrison Ford's so cool. I'm like, he doesn't have a cool helmet. He doesn't have a sword. So
Yeah, exactly.
don't know about all that.
Yeah.
Get some armor, buddy, and then maybe we can
Yeah.
talk. But so I had never had any desire to watch them at that age. And I watched Phantom Menace and I come out of it. I'm like, that was pretty good. I don't really know what Darth Vader has to do with any of that. You know, so like I didn't, it was like kind of this thing. I'm like, I'm watching it the whole time. And I guess you could have blown my mind. Like that little kid is Darth Vader. And I mean like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
That's incorrect. So
Although
I guess
there is that poster where you could see the shadow of Darth Vader like in the background.
really?
I think I was just like, I really think I looked at that and I was like, that's a weirdly angular,
Yeah.
that's a weirdly angular shadow. A child wouldn't cast a shadow shaped like that at all. So I think that like weirdly at the absolute last moment right there, yes, that would have described me when I went to go see my first Star Wars movie.
Sure.
That I didn't know that he was going to eventually grow up to be Darth Vader.
Wait, this is a non sequitur a bit, but my partner, my partner Amanda, their first movie that they ever saw in theaters was Phantom Menace.
Oh wow!
And their parents brought them as a child, and then they're from Florida, and the AC broke in the theater, so they had to leave halfway through the movie. God. But I think a lot of people's first movies were probably one of the prequels, just because they were huge. Or first movie that you saw in theaters. What was your guys' first movie that you saw in theaters?
I genuinely don't know. There's a really solid shot that it's Phantom Menace.
Oh, sure.
Because like I said, 5 years old.
Oh,
that's
it's probably
age,
that then. Yeah.
That's about the age you take your kid to a movie theater for the first time.
Yeah. Do you know yours?
Force Awakens. Yeah. The first.
You've never been to
I was asking the first movie that you ever saw in theaters.
Ever saw in theaters?
Yeah.
Sorry. Force Awakens.
I was a senior in high school. I stumbled into this place.
What is this place?
Why are you eating it here?
You come afterwards. You're just like afterwards, like Kev. You're not gonna believe where I just went. It was awesome. It's like at home but big.
Yeah. I don't understand what Darth Vader has to do with any of that. But okay, I have no fucking clue what my first film.
Ask your mom. Text your mom.
My mom wouldn't know. She wouldn't know. Let me think.
She would know. She didn't take me.
Movies. I don't know. I don't even
keep
remember
on doing that. I think that will help.
Let me go back. Okay, so the last movie I saw in theaters was Star Wars Episode 3, or Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Dude, what? Oh, you know what? It might have been Robots.
Dude, we were like in third grade when Robots came out.
Yeah.
Also,
Robots might
movie,
be,
by the way.
Great movie.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
I said also a Ewan McGregor movie.
Oh.
I didn't say great. I haven't seen it in a long enough time to tell you if I like
it's
it.
Good. It's good. Who does he play? He plays the main character.
I think he's the main guy. I think he's Blue Robot is the character's name. I don't know what his name is.
My
that's
alma
the first
mater.
movie. That's fun.
My alma mater, SUNY Purchase, which is Blue Sky Productions, came out of SUNY Purchase. So there was a huge poster of robots in our editing lab. What we could have possibly have become. Motivational, I guess. Yeah. If you make good shit here, you can go on to make a Spies in Disguise.
I think Blue Sky is like effectively done.
Disney owns it now.
Yeah, but I think they shut them down, like as part of the Fox merger. Like I think it came a couple months later because there was like there are federally mandated amounts of time that you have to employ somebody when you lay them off. And I think a couple months later they just were quietly. We're not going to make any more Blue Sky movies.
Yeah.
We have enough animation studios that we're just going to shut them down.
Sure.
Yeah, we have enough animation studios, all 2 of them, that we just outsource all of our animation to. Why do we need any other ones, right?
Yeah. We don't need Sid the Sloth.
We have Illumination. What are we doing here?
They don't have Illumination. That's Universal.
Yeah. Disney owns
You're
it.
not seeing Disney
owns
Universal.
Disney owns Universal.
Well, there may be another big merger like that going on. I don't know if you guys saw it. Who is it? I think
I don't want to. This ties into my work shift, so I don't want to talk about this.
It's okay. I was going to say there is another large scale, multi-studio merger that is potentially
on the horizon. It's
right
Warner
now.
Brothers buying Viacom.
Yes,
which makes no sense to me at all.
I saw it. I saw like a pitch deck for this, where they were like pros of us getting to do this merger, and they're like literally like bullet point lists. They're like, 1, all of the great HGTV content would really complement all the scripted content on Paramount. And I'm like, this is like, it's like that scene in Step Brothers where they're like trying to convince their parents why they should be allowed to have like bunk beds. Where they're like, what? We'd have so much more room for activities. Like it literally reads like that. And they're like, is the FCC going to look at that and be like, oh my God, you guys are going to have so much fun. I don't think it's gavels that they approve sales with, but in my mind, that's how it works.
I don't want my paychecks to go through Warner Brothers. I don't trust those guys.
No, I don't know. They know how to manage things.
Warner Brothers?
You remember when they took HBO out of their streaming service's name because they didn't want people to make the mistake of thinking there would be good content on the streaming service?
Yeah, that was awesome.
They're like, yeah, well, people really associate HBO with quality, and we don't want people expecting that when they come to us.
All right, what's your favorite show on Paramount Plus right now?
Oh my God. Weirdly, Paramount Plus is one that I feel like I have on. Like I know I've used it, and I can't.
You
remember
pay for
what
Paramount Plus?
Yes, I do. Me and all 12 other people who use it.
I work for Paramount, and I don't pay for Paramount Plus. I should get free Paramount Plus.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
He's like, oh shit, I got to check my email for a promo code right now.
The first movie I saw in theaters was Lilo and Stitch. Okay, back to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
Revenge of the Stitch.
Ooh.
Is that something?
Did they do that? Yeah. Is that something?
I'm sure there's like...
There are like Disney Plus shorts where they'll be like, The Simpsons meet
I
Iron Man.
I have unfortunately watched all of those. They are very difficult to watch.
I see their titles and they make me sad.
Yes.
So I elect to not watch them.
No, it's like Homer and Goofy hanging out. And then
those two would have some crazy banter.
Yeah. Some people would even say that like Homer himself is kind of goofy. So there's like some subtext there. Like he's kind of a nut.
He's here's how I see it.
Okay.
All right. You be who do you want to be, Homer or?
I thought it'd be Mo, like serving you.
All right. You be Mo.
You be Mo. That's great. Totally works with my premise.
You be Mo and
wait. So what?
Fuck this. Never mind.
No. Let's go through it. You assign. You assign. You cast it.
All right, who are we talking about?
Homer and
Simpson,
Goofy.
Mr. Simpson. I'll be Goofy.
Anyone's ever called him Mr.
And
Simpson.
Devin, you be Mo.
I'm Mo.
Yeah.
Okay. Goofy, how's Max doing?
What? HBO? Wait. Oh, my son.
Your son. Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore.
This fucking sucks.
Round on me.
I've been feeling down lately, homie, and I just haven't been feeling goofy.
Yeah.
My son went to college and he hasn't come back, and we don't even know where he is.
That's not very goofy of him.
No.
It's kind of out of character for Goofy.
You know what would be dope? If General Grievous walked in while this was happening.
Yeah, but that's the energy of how those things are written.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Because they're like,
and then R2's like,
R2 is fucking insane in this movie. We have to talk about this also.
There's an R2D2 action sequence at the beginning.
Yes.
It starts with a starship fight that then leads into R2D2 dispatching a couple battle droids by spraying them with oil and then immolating them.
Which is, we all love when R2D2 gets into fights.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he destroyed some of the buff ones.
The big
the ones who have like a big upper chest.
They are the lazily named super battle droids.
Super battle droids, of course. Yeah. Why
really,
not put that guy in the front lines?
Really put a lot of energy into it.
R2. That was the first and last time he did anything in that movie.
I know, because before that, he's just kind of like a trash can that rolls around.
Yeah, literally.
And then he just has like silly beeps, and you're like, this is good stuff. That's the thing is, before that, like when he is just a trash can that rolls around and beeps, I'm like, this kind of fucking rules. This is really doing it for me. I don't need him going to war. It's not something I need out of.
R2D2 is a veteran of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I like how that whole movie. This is a thought that I'm formulating right now, so excuse me if I can't put my words together correctly. But the whole movie is like them escalating things like a shit ton, and that I like how that includes how R2's like features get escalated so much. Also,
what do you mean? What
just like the stakes are so much risen with like where it goes, and that means R2D2 also has to fight and kill these droids also now.
I don't know. It's not a very good film. I'm sorry. I think
it's fun. I think it's fun.
Is it fun?
I had a great time. I had a very fun time.
It was hilarious.
You guys had do you think the movie is fun to watch, or did you have a good viewing experience that was a fun time?
No, I think the movie is fun.
Yeah.
This is a crazy movie to say is fun.
What do you
because we've been talking about how dour,
it's dark. Yeah, but it's dour, but it's not dour because I don't give a fuck. It's not like, oh my God, Anakin, what are you doing, man? Stop. It's like, oh my God, he's about to kill like 30 kids. Holy shit, they're actually doing this.
But that's the thing is, I don't think the movie has the mood where like you're supposed to be enjoying how ridiculous it is.
No, of course not. No.
I really do think the movie is pitched at you in a way that the intention is for you to be like, oh my God, Anakin, how could you possibly do this to your beloved wife? You know, I think the movie wants that, and in failing to do that, does not allow itself to also like go the kind of ridiculous route where it's like all this fucked up shit is happening, but isn't it kind of funny how we're treating it a little lightly? It treats it very seriously, and I think that kind of goes into why Star Wars fans are so severe in the way that they feel about Star Wars. You know what I mean? I don't know. You guys had fun.
Yeah. I think you're right. You're right. They were trying, but that's what makes it fun. At least for me, is like that they were trying so hard.
Yes,
to evoke this mood, and they're evoking the opposite, complete opposite mood from me. That's what's fun to me, at least.
I mean, it's the movie's ridiculous. Yeah, but it's I think that Star Wars movies are allowed to be ridiculous, and that's what I like about them. But at least with the originals, they're ridiculous in a kind of magical way. These are ridiculous in a more depressing way, I think. But I still enjoy watching it because it's just, I think my weirdest thing with these movies, it's so weird seeing these characters like R2 and Obi-Wan and just like the way that like they've been 2000-fied is like the wrong way to put it, but just like the opportunity to do something with these characters in the 2000s and this is what you do with them is so fascinating to me.
The idea of like, so you want to like look at somebody who has like Obi-Wan is a character who was like iconically played by another actor in a previous movie.
Yeah.
This is like, it kind of goes back to, and I know I'm kind of contradicting my thought earlier. I'm like, well, that's not what Luke Skywalker would do. I'm like, well, that's who wrote him. Watching this character is not in like a way where I'm like, that's not true to his character, because it's all the same basic thing. He's like a guy who's trying to do the right thing and he's heroic and stuff. It's not that the characterization is wrong. It's just that it's just a different guy playing a character with the same name.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like a take on the same character. It just kind of feels like you just told me this is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
And I'm supposed to just kind of roll with that. I don't know. I think that like Ewan McGregor is somebody who people will sometimes kind of defend. I think this is a pretty bad performance.
I know, and it sucks.
And it's similar to the Natalie Portman thing where it's like, I don't,
because they're both good
supposed to do?
actors. Yeah.
I disagree.
Really?
At least in the duel, I think.
He does great there.
Anything before, he's barely in the movie. He barely does anything in the movie.
There's a point I was making earlier. So much of, I think, the drama of this movie is supposed to be a betrayal between Anakin and Obi-Wan. That's what the movie really wants you to be invested in, clearly. But it's like you said, he's not in enough of the movie.
They don't interact with each other at all.
They're just talking about past stuff that they've done together between the second and the third.
The plot actually, instead of them clashing and getting into fights the entire time, and kind of like a steady mistrust or betrayal growing between them, actually what happens is Obi-Wan gets sent off on this other mission so that they don't realize what the other is doing too soon and have a fight that needs to happen at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And you get to that fight, which I agree with you is probably the best sequence in the movie. It's pretty well done. It's more audacious. It does actually feel like George Lucas trying to express an idea that he has and is passionate about. But you get there and he's like, you never believed in me. You never, trusted me. You never get, and I'm like, this movie has not done the work for me to give a shit about this conflict.
Yeah, sure.
Now. Because in the biggest betrayal is that Padme is with Obi-Wan, like physically, like just
it's like they're on the same ship.
Yeah. And that's like,
and Padme doesn't even know. Like Obi-Wan's stuck onto the ship.
The only like hint of that beforehand is in some of the scenes at like Anakin and Padme's apartment, which, by the way, is this crazy open air concept that is like
crazy apartment.
I want
it's
that.
like the entire apartment is a balcony, like a fully furnished balcony. And I'm like, it doesn't get cold ever. You guys don't have like a shield wall or something. And also there's no security, like for like a senator and an important Jedi.
With flying cars in the
flying
mix
cars
here.
they fly up to the open balcony there. And then someone just gets off and walks into your no-doored bedroom. But like some of the stuff that goes on there, when like Anakin starts going like really like, no one fucking believes in me. All they do is give me, an entire military battalion to go do basically whatever I want. She's like, you seem pretty upset. Maybe you should go talk to your brother boss, Obi-Wan. And he's like, why would you even suggest that? Why would anybody, are you fucking him?
Father, brother,
Jeez, what's
boss.
wrong with you?
Wait, was that the subtext?
I think
were?
Some people project that onto it. And I actually think the movie would probably work better if it were more, he's like, if it had more of an angle of, are you creeping in on my girl?
Yeah, like you hypocrite.
Yeah, that
you
is
saying
like,
that
and
I
that
can't.
would like that would kind of make things more interesting because it would make Obi-Wan like for him to be so penitent, like he goes and lives in the desert for 20 years and it ages him terribly. It would make more sense if he had this one big cardinal sin that he felt he was atoning for, instead of what the movie proposes, which is he was a really good, substitute father. He trained him well. And then out of nowhere, even though he trained him really well, he turned into Hitler.
Yeah.
And like, that's not really that interesting. And he can just guilt himself over that. I told you that I was going to watch this. Disney Plus they've made a lot of stuff. That's the thing. That's the other thing that we haven't really gotten to now is that Disney made 5 movies and then from then on out kind of became creatively inert. They didn't really know what to do next. There were 2, the last movie they released showed that they were too in the weeds with how the internet was perceiving their movies. They were getting too in their heads about what people on Twitter were saying. and identity politics and all this dumb bullshit. And that last movie really feels like it is a reaction to the way people reacted to the last movie. Now, Star Wars is basically just a series of streaming shows. There's probably a new episode basically every week. They're just a constant stream of them. When The Mandalorian came out, I remember being really excited and liking the first season of that. I stopped pretty soon after that, and I basically haven't liked anything I've watched since then. Have you guys watched any of those?
I haven't watched any of it.
No? Not even like The Mandalorian when it first came out?
No.
When it first came out, maybe like an episode or two.
So they made a series that stars Ewan McGregor about Obi-Wan.
Yes.
It's like 6 episodes. It takes place.
I do want to watch that. It seems interesting.
I forget exactly what the timeline is, but I think there's 20 years between Revenge of the Sith and the original Star Wars. Somewhere in the middle of that, it's just him he's been living and being sad in the desert. And then it's this, it's this narrative about him meeting like baby Princess Leia and he has like multiple fights with Darth Vader.
What?
Yeah.
Darth Vader is in.
Hayden Christensen
he's in it with Hayden Christensen
is in it.
That's another one of these reclamation things. Is I think you see this through like memes about the prequels, and you see this with people who are kind of unwilling to admit that something they have a childhood fondness for is a flawed work. Where they're like, Hayden Christensen was actually really good. It was really good that he played it like a whiny teenager or whatever. I think that's kind of the way they're like, well, that's really what he was. And I'm like, I don't know. He was a general. I think he was in charge of a lot of people.
That's true, yeah.
I think I think he was an authority figure who kind of got lost there.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know. The series, I watched it in preparation for this episode because I could conceive of no other situation in which I would willingly watch it. It's not even like aggressively bad. It has that thing where it's like, it just feels like content.
Sure.
There's no real intentionality. You made this because people say they like Obi-Wan, they like Ewan McGregor in the role, and then you don't really have any dramatic reason for this thing to exist. Since neither of you have seen it, I won't talk about it too much.
I truly do not care.
Well, it's not even that I'm worried about spoiling it, but
we wouldn't be able.
It's just so weird to be watching this. You have Ewan McGregor 20 years later coming back and playing this part that people have kind of later reclaimed and said it's actually really good. And now weirdly, he's the standard people judge this part by, where when he was initially cast, they were saying, well, he's not exactly like Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
This is kind of weird. And it's the way that a lot of franchise stuff works now, where you're watching it. I'm like, this is actually like pretty professionally done. This doesn't look bad. Like it should. It's really expensive. But you get out the other end. I'm like, so basically somewhere in between, he met up with Darth Vader again, and he's like, you're still a dick. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to kill you. And it's like, all right.
How do you know that it's
See you in 10
years?
There are a couple flashback scenes.
Oh, wow. Holy shit.
With some slightly dodgy de-aging.
Okay.
That's the thing, is like he's actually playing him like when he was a Padawan. So before episode 2. So somewhere in that same period where he turned from Jake Lloyd into Hayden Christensen. Hayden Christensen is then going back to that period as a 40-something-year-old man, and through the magic of the cinema is now like basically pretending to be like 16 or 17 years old, which is weird. It's like watching, did you guys watch the Wet Hot American Summer?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Series?
Yeah.
It is kind of like that, where except there it's a joke because they're saying, these actors were already 10 years too old to be playing this part. Isn't it really funny that they're now in their mid 40s?
Being a prequel.
Yes. Now, but they're doing that. But they're
Star
doing
Wars executives saw that, like, that's not funny. That's cool.
This is like really awesome. I love seeing the continuation of these character stories. And you get to the end of them, like, so basically he drew the same conclusion he did at the end of Revenge of the Sith, a movie that itself was already kind of dramatically inert. There's nothing in there that you can't just infer from watching A New Hope. They meet up. There's like, I was the master, you were the apprentice. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like you did something bad and you guys haven't really talked much since then. I didn't need a whole movie with a lava fight to know that
it doesn't sound like
that
you
was the case.
Took anything away from the series at all.
I don't, and that's kind of what I take away from it. Like, I watched 6 hours of it. And I mean, like,
6 hours. Holy shit!
I'm the fool. Like, right? Like, I gave up my time for it, and I walked away from it, and I'm like, is there actually no expectation that these things have some substance to them?
Right.
You know?
I feel like it's so hard to take Star Wars seriously for that reason, is because I feel like the people who are writing it don't care about like the continuity or the universe at all, right? They're making that just because they want to make it because they like Ewan McGregor, but like I think it fails for the same reason that the prequels fail, is because at the end of the series, Obi-Wan will still be the same Obi-Wan as he was in the first movie. So nothing of really major importance can happen. So
that series is particularly egregious, I think, because it happens to him during an extended period of time in which he is a hermit in the desert.
Yeah.
The series has to begin and end with him as a hermit in the desert who is in hiding. And so like when he comes out and he like meets baby Princess Leia and says like, "Hey, you're a smart kid. I'll see you in a little while." He like the idea of like going back for a fight with Darth Vader. I'm like, well, they already had their big confrontation where he's like, "You're a dick. I'm going to cut your arms off." That's how it went. Having another fight like that it's just weird that there is demand for that, and that's what they meet the demand with. Is something that just doesn't progress anything. It doesn't really reveal anything about a character. The only thing that like happens with Obi-Wan is he's like, I should go back to being a hero. You know, I should like help out where I can. Which is where we meet him when he's at the movie, you know, like it's not like we needed a whole like exploration of how he got to there. I'm like, you can figure, I'm like, I don't know, he was probably sad in the desert for a bit and then he wasn't. You know, I don't think this whole thing needs to exist. And now Star Wars is kind of gone. All 5 movies were huge financial successes, some less so than others. People love to say like when Solo came out, it was a huge failure. That movie opened to #1. It made $500 million. It's just that like by the standards of a Star Wars movie, they're like, uh-oh, someone's getting fired. And they're just gone. There hasn't been one for like 4 years now. And this is what's in place of it.
Yeah, but it's kind of, I mean, you and I talk about this a lot, or maybe I talk at you about this, but it's kind of good that nobody goes away anymore. Like nobody, like it was just like social media and just like the internet. Nobody ever, like everybody's just constantly always around. And even now you're saying Star Wars is gone, but there's still like a new Star Wars episode every week.
It's just a mill.
And I think it's okay that there's no Star Wars movies for a bit, because when something goes away, that means you want to have it back again.
I guess here's my thing. I talked about Star Wars being cyclical. It kind of comes in.
Yes, no, exactly. Yeah.
Not only the culture at large, but like people's individual lives as well. So do we, I might be out. Like that's the thing is I'm like, I guess if they release a new Star Wars movie, I'll go see that, you know, because there's still some part in the back of my brain where I really want there to be a really fun cinematic experience, and Star Wars is something I have a lot of like positive association with in the past. But like I no longer have any reason to believe that's happening anytime in the near future.
Oh yeah, but I'm at peace with that. And also I think, I don't know, out of all the Disney ones, I really liked Rogue One a lot. I think Rogue One is a really fun film.
I think Rogue One, I guess I'd have to watch it again. I think it's really boring. I've fallen asleep every time I've tried to watch it.
There's one cool scene in that movie.
Which one?
Like the Darth
Vader
one at the
end that I was asleep for. Ugh.
The Darth Vader's like in a dark hallway and he's like deflecting. That's cool. That's objectively cool. and you know, it makes you wonder, like, why don't they just make a movie where it's just like that the entire time? I feel like on paper it's not hard to make a Star Wars movie. Give me an hour and a half of fights and then in between whatever, like
silly robot bouncing back and forth and beeping. Like that shit is good. You don't.
The worst parts about Star Wars is everything that is not the lightsaber fights. Everything else sucks. I'm sorry. It's just like not like the dialogue is horribly written. The acting is horrible. Give me the CGI crazy fights. Like that's what I want to see. That's what I feel like. That's what I don't know. I can't speak for all. I'm not a Star Wars fan, so I can't speak
That's
for
the
all.
thing is that
I feel like a lot of people want that. I think that would be successful, at least.
Yeah, but then you're missing like a lot of the character that I'm talking about earlier, like the fucking.
But
like,
are you getting character anyway?
No, but
the way that they're doing it.
Oh, of course, not the way that they're doing it. But I'm thinking about like the Cantina Band or just like shit like that, where it's like I would miss that type of thing, you know?
Well, give me that. Give me that too.
Great, let's do it.
All right. I think Disney found their 2 new directors finally. I think that's another reason why the Star Wars movies haven't come out in a while too, right? Because like everyone is like fighting to be the next person. Either they really, really want it, and then when they get it, they're like either like leave the project or are fired from it.
That's the thing that happened with the last couple to actually get released is they were plagued with all these production issues.
Yeah.
Where, like I think like 3 of them had a director get really far into either like pre-production or actual production, and then the director was fired or stepped away from the project midway through. So you have these movies that are like I go back to like the Obi-Wan series as like an example of how these things are really reactive to the way that people have received the last thing. There's like a scene at the end where, I guess I'm spoiling Obi-Wan. You're welcome. You don't need to watch it. But there's a scene at the end where Uncle Owen is like, do you want to go meet Luke?
No.
And he's like, yeah, I'll go meet. By the way, this is just, I don't want to be mean to a kid actor. This is just some 5-year-old actor. Like he's not, it's just
all,
so.
I don't want to be mean to a kid actor. It's all cyclical. It's all cyclical.
Yeah. It's just so.
But he should kill himself for even thinking that he
could play Luke Skywalker.
But
Luke Skywalker wouldn't cry like that.
But it's not that it's like. It's just so weird. They're showing you this kid who's just some kid and being like, this is the great Luke Skywalker. And then in that moment, Obi-Wan looks at him and he does like the hello there, like from the movie. And I'm like, they know that's a meme. And is that just not like theoretically when they make that, they want this to be like an effective emotional moment, right? Like you want to, in theory, they want it to work genuinely. And they immediately undercut it with like, do you remember the thing from the thing?
Yeah.
Remember when you made it on the internet and it was a funny thing too? Well, now it's in this one. It's in this one now too.
He said it. Give me season 2.
And that's kind of the energy of a lot of the movies is that they're so clearly responding to, I mean, not necessarily what's trendy, but what was trendy a year ago, because movies take a long time to actually come out. By the time it comes out, we're like, that was like 6 meme cycles of that show. Yeah. So
no, but they need to disconnect from that. And who knows if that's even possible, you know?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's not possible because they want to make money. Star Wars is probably, I'd say it's top 3 biggest cash cows for Disney right now. They have to make the content.
I mean, cumulatively, I think except for like, if you look at the MCU, which is like 35 movies now or however much, like that's just sheer volume. Yeah. That's going to have been more profitable overall.
We should go see a Marvel movie. I think our discourse on that would be.
Are there going to be any more?
No, but like a re-release.
A re-release. Yeah, I refuse.
I think they're playing that at the film forum. I think they're
playing what? Ant-Man 2.
They're playing Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think that was directed by Truffaut, so it's in a retrospective.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's crazy.
No. I don't really think you would have an opportunity like that. I just don't see it.
I'm just saying, if we already did a Star Wars episode, fuck it.
Yeah, should we just like,
let's just lean into it.
Marvel is also like at a point where they have the opposite issue where they've kept making movies while still making the miniseries, and now Marvel has just turned into homework. Like it's just
well, that's Star Wars also.
It's a big glut of things to like. Well, the issue with like, so the Marvels just came out and it didn't do well because it's been 4 years since the initial movie came out, but the secondary and tertiary character each have a Disney Plus series that you had to have watched to understand them. But the movie now there's been enough of these movies that have come out since they've been making those series that they understand, not everybody is watching the series anymore. So we actually now have to spend several, like a couple scenes at the beginning being like, this is Miss Marvel and this is what her whole thing is.
Yeah.
And I think it's just people are exhausted by the prospect of that but they're at a weird point where there's only one Marvel movie coming out next year.
Yeah.
And,
Really?
What's that? It's Deadpool 3. Where they're
and
the
that's
thing is,
boy.
freaking awesome.
the thing is that movie seems like it's making the exact same mistake as the last couple that haven't really done well, and it's already in the can because it's just going to be like a big exhausting cameo fest and references to things that are now there's so much of them. It's not even necessarily saying, oh, they're bad or it was unpopular. People don't have the time to watch all of it in totality.
Also filmed it while the writer's strike was happening, which you can technically do, but the whole film is jokes. And so that means you have to rely on Ryan Reynolds riffing with
Ryan
Hugh
Reynolds is
Jackman.
actually, I think I saw this. Ryan Reynolds is credited as a writer on that movie.
Right.
Meaning that if he riffs, it's doing a rewrite on the script, which is the thing he is not allowed to do during a WGA strike.
Yeah, sure. But
so I think that movie was locked into whatever the script was when they started.
No, that's what. Yes, exactly.
If there's just like a filler line where it's like Deadpool makes funny quip, I think he just has to say that now.
That sucks. He's like thinking like,
you're not excited.
Shoot this.
You're not excited for Deadpool 3
in dub because my mouth doesn't move. Like
that sounds really. I wish they would put a title card at the beginning, being like, "This was shot during the WGA strike." Ryan Reynolds had to read everything verbatim.
I don't know, man. Deadpool, he's crazy. He might.
He is crazy.
Fuck it.
He would look at the camera and say that.
So
you know that guy.
I don't know. Yeah, if you guys really because
no, Devin, I don't.
This I don't because I kind of didn't want to do this.
I'll be honest, I didn't either.
The pitch of it's a midnight of Revenge of the Sith, and I think our expectations that it'll be really fun to go do that, and I bet people will show up in costumes, and it's gonna be fun, and we'll be like, hey, it's kind of rough around the edges, but we all remember it from a fun time. And I was immediately deflated by the screening. And it was spent like the week or so since we saw it. Just kind of like, normally I have like a whole outline and interview based around this. I've just been like, it feels pointless to write this for this movie. And I just my big take here is I'm done. I'm not in like this has reached a critical point of being so bad. But if I can go back to the thing that I have a nostalgic childhood relationship to, and now not even be upset that it's bad, but walk away just kind of numb, I'm like, what are the chances I will care about basically any new thing related to it at this point?
All right, let's flip the script. New Star Wars, it's going to come out.
Okay, I'm picturing this.
You get an email from LucasArts. And they say, we want you to be the new creative director for the next 3 films.
Okay.
You can do anything you want, like any story. What are you doing? What is your third
Yeah, I have a question.
Trilogy story. Yeah.
Can I put other existing IP into this?
No. You got to make a Star Wars movie. I mean, you could do like a cameo. You could have like I could have like the slime ghost from Ghostbusters show up for a second. He could be like in a cantina and be like, huh?
That's yeah.
But what if let's now follow me here.
All right.
We don't just put other IP in there. The other IP puts themselves in there. That's right, Deadpool.
Ooh.
Deadpool in Star Wars. How do you like that? You think it's passing?
I'm passing on that one. I'm passing on that one for now because of the whole writers thing. Whatever happened there.
The writer's strike is actually over.
Yeah, so come back next time when it's over.
I think IATSE might be on strike or something.
Yeah, so somebody's on strike. Somebody ain't working around.
There's always someone. People don't want to work anymore.
Oh, no. I just think I asked that question because I feel like there's so much what people love most about Star Wars now is not even the main story, but the extended universe. I've heard that there's so much, there's a whole, there's books and books, like you were saying, books and books about this stuff. And I feel that they can pick up anywhere in that, in any of the already pre-written
I mean, that's a
plot
thing
that they have.
I wouldn't, when the first season of The Mandalorian came out, that was the thing I really liked about it. was that it's really just a guy and he exists in this story world that has elements that'll be familiar to us. But largely, it's a guy doing a job.
Yeah, and I think that's okay for a streaming series, but I don't know if people would be interested in that in a movie necessarily.
I think... All right. The biggest downfall of Star Wars is that it has to follow the Skywalker saga. I think if they got off of that and just like did something else, like I think it would be good. They didn't. If they do another, something similar with other Jedi that aren't Skywalker, like it doesn't all have to relate to this one thing that happened this one time.
Sure. Yeah. We could do that or young Chewbacca.
Ooh. I mean, we have what? Baby Yoda, Baby Leia, Baby Luke. Holy shit. Wait,
Chewbacca?
Baby Chewbacca.
Logical next step.
Baby Star Wars. That's the next step.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that we walk away and we're like, how do we fix this franchise? Baby.
Young Chewbacca. No. It's like young Rock or young Sheldon.
Okay,
that's what I'm imagining.
Young. Sorry. So it's not baby.
Young, sorry.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think we broke new ground here?
No.
Yeah.
I think we have retread the most over-discussed material anywhere on the internet.
I think we got close. I think we...
He can't even... They can't even refute it.
I think we had fun.
All right, you listeners,
I hang out with my friends.
DM us. Do you think that we talked about something
that was new and exciting?
That was new here, or are we just
We had fun, and that's what we want out of Revenge of the Sith, or that's what I want.
I'll say this: the way people will talk about each new Star Wars project, and like if they're trying to hype it up, for example, they'll say, oh, I've seen your pitch or I've seen the trailer or whatever. This is exactly what I want Star Wars to be. And I think people really, I hear that phrase and they get really hung up on the idea that that Star Wars can be made great again. You know, that there is a good version moving forward to it. And I think the thing that nobody really wants to grapple, because the way that people approach this is always, how can we make more good Star Wars? And nobody ever thinks the solution to this is maybe we have made all the good Star Wars that there is to make.
Yeah.
And maybe we go make, and I'm not saying that like we need to shut down all franchise stuff. Like I'm not that extremist about it, but I think the way I've watched this franchise tread water and the way I've watched it like slowly drain because I used to be someone who read all the extended bullshit, like Chewbacca's, like first date sort of stupid books.
Where can I find that?
DM you after. It's unpublished material. But I used to really love all that extra stuff. And now I'm like, I'm not even stirred to being upset by it anymore. I just walk away and I said, well, that was a time in my life. It's like looking at an ex that you're over, you're like, well, I really do wish them well. I hope they figure it out. And
the metaphor that I've been thinking of was and maybe this is too far, but it's like the Bible where there are these characters that are like
elaborate on that, please.
Steadfast, and then there's different stories that they go on, and sometimes it's bad.
This is the greatest story ever told.
There's some toxic fans and some good ones. Yeah,
no one ever talks about the Bible's toxic fan.
But it's just taken the self-seriousness like I was talking about earlier. For these characters and these stories that are just put on such a pedestal, it's Bible-esque to me.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
Star Wars, I don't care anymore. That's like that is like
good thing because neither do they. So nobody. That's
the other thing too, is that I think this comes out and people are like, 2 years ago, you have a movie podcast, you make a Star Wars episode, it comes out, and I think they'll be like, that'll do well. People love Star Wars. It comes out now, and they're like, I don't even think about that anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is like, do young people care about Star Wars? Like that's like does a 10-year-old get excited? Like if they had one coming out next month, does a 10-year-old get excited about that the same way that I did, when I was 10 or 11 years old? I don't really think that's the case anymore.
You don't think so? I
think so in a different way.
Yes, I agree.
You are denying the power of Baby Yoda. I think Baby Yoda is more powerful and more popular than any previous Star Wars
holy
properties,
shit.
in my opinion.
There's an argument.
And what the fuck do I know?
Hey guys, I'm just a Deadpool fan. What do I know? That was like this like crazy groundswell. Everybody like really loved when Yoda came out, or Baby Yoda, and now I had forgotten that Baby Yoda was a factor until you brought it up just now. It's weird because that's the biggest like phenomenon of success they've had in probably 5 years. Is everyone being like, you don't understand. It's like that small guy with big ears. Smaller. It's like he's really cute. And he doesn't, instead of talking like
that annoying,
instead of talking like bullshit, they just cut out the middleman. There's no talk.
Talks like a baby. He's just goo-goos and gagas.
He's like my cat. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I always think about this story from when I worked at, not the camp that we worked at, but one of the Eastchester town camps. This must have been like 2015 when Jurassic World came out, and the fucking kids were obsessed with Jurassic World. And I was so shocked by this at the time. I was like, this means anything to you at all? And so while you're talking about the power of Baby Yoda, I think there's also a lot of power to just being a baby and seeing something cool.
True.
Also,
I think if it's marketed well, it can be made exciting.
Yeah.
So I guess we've come to the exact conclusion. Star Wars, is it over? Maybe, but also maybe not. But we talked about it for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the movies we want to see.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Wait, I think this is about the time in the podcast where we betray each other and go.
Oh shit! Yeah, you know what? We are about 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah.
Probably still further than 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah.
But we're my ultimate conclusion is, we like this way that it is now exists within the film landscape now, which is we're not really actively making any like major, big film experiences. We're just kind of cranking out these shows that have enough of an audience that we have enough money to keep doing it. And everybody else has just kind of forgotten about it because we're not interested in making it the big thing anymore.
Yeah.
That I guess my conclusion is I've looked at that cultural reception of it and I said, 2 thumbs up. I agree. That's where I'm at too. I don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
Any other closing thoughts about Revenge of the Sith, a movie that this podcast has kind of been about?
I do, but I don't think that it's any new territory, and I'm okay with calling it to be completely honest.
You don't want to retread any familiar territory on a podcast?
Dueling of the Fates is an awesome score.
Yeah, no, John Williams.
That's a
so
song.
good.
Duel of the Fates is,
Yeah.
not to be a huge nerd, is a song from Phantom Menace.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What am I thinking
The
of?
track you're thinking of is called the wonderful title, Battle of the Heroes.
No way.
Yes.
Duel of Fates is dun 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 dun.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
but the lava battle,
Dun, dun, dun,
it's,
dun,
like,
dun,
it actually
dun,
has
dun,
that as a
dun,
motif
dun,
a couple
dun,
times
dun.
throughout the score.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's the I can't think of the tune of it right now. But the one you're thinking of that happens over the lava is
The score is the
That
best
is
part
the-
of any of these movies.
it is-
Yeah.
is the most
Consistent.
consistently excellent element of any Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. Closing thoughts? I don't have any. I think it's time to move on to my final question. You're repeat guests, so you know what it's going to be. But I always like to ask as the final way out, what never going to happen or very special to you screening that if we see it's playing somewhere, we got to drop everything. We got to go to it. We got to do an episode about it. What movie is that for you?
You go first.
If they ever, and this will never happen,
Okay.
if they ever like drop Iron Giant in theaters,
Oh, Iron
I will
Giant?
go see that immediately.
Iron
Yeah.
Giant's
I think it's playing
Yeah.
it like Alamo
Seriously?
next month or like later this month. I'm not even
Oh
kidding.
shit!
Yeah.
I didn't even think that people like knew about that movie
Really?
anymore. Yeah,
It's
It's
incredible.
kind of like
It's
a
so
cult,
good. It's so
like
good.
a cult classic. I
Yeah.
think it didn't do well at the time, but like animation nerds really like it, and it just kind of has endured in the But like that was like a real like VHS classic for me as a kid.
All right, let me think of another one then.
Okay, so we'll do
All right, this one will never happen.
Okay.
But I would love to see, and I don't even want to see this movie. I just want to talk about the property.
Yeah.
Many Saints of Newark, the Sopranos movie.
Oh, a movie that famously was, they were going to make it a theatrical release. That was the original contract.
Yeah.
And then I think it was one of those movies where
This happened so much
it
recently.
went to
It's so
HBO
weird.
Max and
Yeah,
on the same day
immediately.
technically got a theatrical release, but like the president was still like, if you go to a theater, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Well, not that president, but like, cool. We brought up Trump too. I'm really happy we squeezed that in right at the end. But it was like, we're like the advisor was still like, it's really irresponsible to still go to a movie theater. Maybe don't do it. So nobody actually saw that thing in theaters.
No, I don't even think it was in theaters for it couldn't have
like
been
whatever
in for
the
very long.
contractually minimum obligation.
because they always put the streaming stuff in theaters for like a day so that it could be nominated for awards.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing there.
I've actually like admission time. I've never seen The Sopranos.
Yeah,
so
me neither. I need to watch it.
I would love an excuse to
You guys are
watch it.
just watch it. You don't need an excuse. Just watch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
All right.
You already watched 6 hours of Obi-Wan.
I know. I
use
could have been
that
6
hours.
episodes into The Sopranos, and now, I don't know. We can also just go see the Iron. Like we can just we're just regular friends. We can just go do that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but where's the discourse, man?
I don't know. How do we feel about the Iron Giant franchise and really what its place is in the cultural lexicon? Kev, what about you?
I will say I have a few. First off, the Iggy and the Stooges movie that Jim Jarmusch directed. And then that means Kim Gordon or somebody else from Sonic Youth has to sit behind us then. That would be my request. But then the other thought that I had, just talking about movies, Lilo and Stitch would be awesome. I think that would be cool. And there is Lilo and Stitch Star Wars fan art. That's what I was looking up before.
Okay. All right, perfect.
That's not
like
bad.
for some reason in my head, like it's natural for me to see like Stitch holding a lightsaber.
Wait, look, this one's so weird because
he's friends with Yoda.
But it's Yoda from the fucking Cartoon Network Attack of the Clones series. There's such an easy way to not do
there's
it.
There's just two assets of two incredibly dissonant.
Wait. I can buy this off of eBay for $10. What is this? How much budget does the show have?
You said it's. We can talk about that off.
Holy shit! Lilo
think you're gonna
and Stitch, Star Wars, Yoda, Disneyland, Walt Disney World makeup compact mirror.
I think you're gonna have to pick between that and Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth. I don't think we can get both.
Can I?
We can discuss it.
I'll get back to you at the next episode.
Yeah. Next time they come back, they just have the pin on their shirt. And I have made my decision. I know exactly. I know exactly who I am.
Yeah.
Kevin, Disney pins. Come on, you're being crazy here. Let's get into that.
That's not even a Disney pin. It's a makeup mirror.
Sorry.
Cool. They are added to the on a series of Lilo and Stitch. I think it played at Film Forum last year.
Fuck.
Like no, seriously.
Dang.
Like it is one of those ones where like
That's a great movie.
it's now the parents of like young children are now such an age where that's nostalgic for them,
sure.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's around. It's like they played Shrek a couple months ago.
I was at that. Oh yeah.
But that was at
yeah.
Metrograph.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that now Shrek is playing at multiple repertory theaters. Around
Shrek
the
is
city.
back, baby.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they're rebooting it. you know?
Yeah.
These things.
Oh, are they rebooting it or are they making a sequel?
I have no idea.
Well, they better come out with something soon because like the Shrek community is.
Because soon,
and I'm not even joking. We are starving for another.
Because soon you're
movie.
just going to get to the point where you're like, look, I've watched all these Shrek streaming series, and I just, I don't have any
Shrek
passion for the
streaming
franchise
series, oh
anymore.
my God.
I watched Puss in Boots Christmas on Netflix or whatever it's called. That's it. Movies added to the to-do list. Me and Sebass are gonna go have a fun time watching The Iron Giant, a good movie that you should watch.
Excellent.
Any other closing thoughts? Yes? No?
I think Star Wars is
May the force be with you.
It's kind of a nerdy little reference there.
Yeah, it's.
I think Star Wars is fun and it should be considered fun. And if you take it too seriously, then you don't get to enjoy it anymore.
I think there are like 3 good Star Wars movies. So go watch those.
Yeah. And Disney executives, if you're listening to this, just let it die for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think they did. Did you time travel and tell them this in 2019?
Well, let it die again, because right now is just not it.
Yeah.
Star Wars is just not it.
Star Wars, it's just not it.
Let it
baby.
die. Get a nice young creative mind. Fuck off from the process of making it.
Yeah.
Then you can make money doing that, making real movies.
Do you know when this one is coming out?
This one is going to come out late January.
Oh, perfect.
I can
Okay.
Look at the if you
if you're still listening,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're
really great that this is also our first video episode that we're doing.
There's some good stuff
They're
in
like,
here.
we really needed you to see how deflated
They're just
were
watching,
when we
waiting
discussed
for
it.
the lightsaber battle to start.
Me and Sebastian do the Skeeter Stevenson Variety Hour. It's a fun variety show. We do it at Pine Box Rock Shop in Bushwick. Our next show is February 17th. It's a Valentine's show. Bring a date, bring a +1. It's going to be very
Bring an open mind.
romantic. Yeah.
I always love the Skeeter show. I always have a fun time. Aside from enjoying like the actual like Skeeter Kevin, like aside from like enjoying the show itself, I always really like going and seeing the like the new talent that you showcase there, and I always find new people to follow and that I like. So
Yeah, we love
excited
having
about
you
that.
there.
That is when this comes out. That's a little under a month. It's going to come out January 19th.
Okay, great.
So,
Perfect.
Yeah, so perfect. So February 17th. Keep an eye out for that.
Yep.
Any other Disaster Town doing a show sometime soon? or-
By the time this comes out, I'm sure we will be doing one in February. Disaster Town Improv.
Yeah.
Look us up on Instagram.
Yeah. Have any upcoming stand-up?
I guess we're also doing a for the first time ever. Skeeter and Kev are going to be on somebody else's show.
Okay.
On January 27th. It's us and then like a bunch of like bands on a bill. We're opening for like
Awesome.
All right.
bands.
January
It's-
27th. So next week.
Yes,
Look out
at
for
Gold
that.
Sounds in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And
Come up to us, talk to us about Star Wars.
Yes.
We are not done here. So
I don't know why you would talk to Skeeter about it because he's not seen any of them. I
he's
don't know.
never seen a movie in his
Yeah.
life, but he loves movies.
Yeah.
He loves
In
movies.
theory, I'm like, I just like the idea of them. I've been wanting to get into movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do I start?
And by get into them, he wants to star it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, hell
Well,
yeah. Thank you for having us, Devin.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming back. It's always a good time, even if we are sitting around kind of sadly flailing over a thing that we are.
I think we got somewhere here. It's the vibe at the beginning was like, what the fuck are we doing? And then we were able to get somewhere.
Undoubtedly, we talked about Star Wars for 2 hours.
Yeah, I know.
There's no taking that away from us,
I
and I
know.
really wish someone could take it away from me. I'm your host, Devin Warner. You can find me on social at WhatIfDevin on all socials. Thank you so much to my guests for coming to the screening and for being here with me today to discuss it. Thank you to Kristen Eng for my artwork. Thank you to Lily Steinberg for helping to produce the show and for doing social media. This has been Bad First Impression. You can find the show on all socials at BFI Pod. Please help the show by rating, reviewing, and following on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, basically anywhere you get your podcasts, we're available. Yep, you know where to find us. And that's our show. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May the force be with you.
May the
No,
force be
we're not
with you.
ending on force.
May the force be with you.
All right. All right.